Good morning, Eileen. We're live.
Good morning, Rich. How are you today?
Better than I deserve, to borrow from Brother Dave Ramsey.
Oh.
So, what's the weather like up there in
It
beautiful
is
Long
that
Island?
we're actually having a cool morning, which is really nice. I just had the sliding glass door open, but I had to shut it because we were hearing too much background noise. But it's the first time we've been able to open windows in quite a while. We have had an unusually hot summer. And I know everyone says, oh, of course it's going to be hot in July and August. That's what happens. But it's a little bit hotter than it normally has been.
Well, good. I'm glad you guys are cooling off up there. I think it's going to be like in the 70s here on the
Mhm.
Cumberland Plateau next week. Really looking forward to that.
Nice. Nice.
Speaking of beautiful weather, my good friend Mr. Will Parker is on out there in Montana, and Will is coin number 800. If you wonder what coin number is, if you're new to the show, it's a serialized coin you get when you join our self-preservation community. Our members are all over the world, literally from South Africa to Israel to Montana to Key West. And uh, each one of those coins really only represents the fact that you intend to do something every single day to make yourself safer and harder to kill. And today I am very pleased to have Eileen Shanahan, the founder and president of Warrior Ranch Foundation, Inc. And I'll go ahead and read her bio real quick. Eileen's love of her country, love of horses, and desire to give back has led her to found Warrior Ranch Foundation. For more than 30 years, Eileen has been shooting, editing, and producing television programs and commercials. Programs include the Cable Ace Award-winning, quote, Long Island Magazine, as well as the Telly Award-winning Talkin Horses and Neighborhood Journal. Additionally, Eileen has won several editing awards. Eileen brings these skill sets to Warrior Ranch Foundation, Inc. with the award-winning documentary, One Soldier, One Horse. And most recently with Warrior, A Battle Against Trauma, Learning to Love and Trust Again. Additionally, Eileen supports our troops by volunteering as vice president for the New York Leatherneck Ball, a subsidiary of the Marine Corps Scholarship Foundation. The foundation honors Marines by providing educational scholarships for their children. And I think that's outstanding as a retired Marine myself. That's amazing.
My dad was part of that from the very early days when that began, the Marine Corps Scholarship Foundation. It began in 1962. It started out as a dinner dance. There was a general who couldn't afford to send his son to college, and there was a few Marines there who said that's ridiculous. And they put on a dinner dance in December of 1962, raised $1,500. And ever since then, they started raising money. My father was part of it from the beginning. I used to help him in the background. It was very cool watching my parents go to a ball every year, because it was the New York Leatherneck Ball. It was held a big gala. They all got in, it was all formal, and they got in gowns and tuxes and everything. And I helped them behind the scenes. And my dad had passed away in 2002, and they asked me to stay on the committee. I think I was the first civilian on the New York committee, and used to help them with audiovisual things in the background. It is an amazing organization. They honor Marines by educating their children. So,
and where can people find out more about that, Eileen?
Excuse me?
Where can people find out more about that? Is there a website?
Oh, they can go to mcsf.org, mcsf.org, Marine Corps Scholarship Foundation.org. And I base a lot of my fundraising, like I was on that fundraising committee forever. And, so it's funny how when I started Warrior Ranch Foundation, I'm a lot more minimally involved in the Marine Corps Scholarship Foundation at this point. I have to update my bio on my web, but I did that but I'm still involved, just not as much anymore. But they're a great organization. They've raised millions and millions of dollars and sent tens of thousands of young men and women to college. And it's just amazing. And so
Sounds like
mcsf.org.
Wow. So it sounds like a worthy cause. But of course, today we want to talk about Warrior Ranch. And the question I have right out of the gate is, what was the inspiration behind founding it? And what is the mission for you guys over there at Warrior Ranch?
So it's very simple, Rich. I love my country and I love horses, and it's a way to give back. And I'm privileged to be able to do that. Like I said, my dad is a Marine. He's serving the pearly gates right now. And my parents always taught us to give back. I have a lot of family in the military, brothers in the Navy, brother-in-law in the Navy. I have 3 Marine nephews, another nephew in the Army, firefighters, cops. We've got it all. That's a typical Irish Catholic family, I guess. But
Amen.
so that we were always taught to give back, and I've done that through my whole life, whether it's coaching in CYO, whether it's helping the Marine Corps Scholarship Foundation, whether it's volunteering at an animal shelter. And then my background is video production, television and video production. And I wanted to somehow combine my love of horses, my love of country, and my talent in television production. What am I going to do? And I was able to put it all together. And I ultimately ended up making a couple of documentaries, which is, we'll talk about that a little bit later. But bottom line, it was the love of country and love of horses. And it was a lottery dream. I never thought I'd be able to do it. I just used to talk about it all the time, said if I won the lottery, this is what I would do. And one day my sister Maureen had said, Eileen, do what you can with what you have. And Jim's my husband, and we had a rescue horse, Warrior, and he quite frankly was the inspiration for a ranch because he was a rescue horse. So the name of the foundation is twofold. It is after Warrior, who had quite a life, and another woman initially rescued him, but I ended up with him, and he still had a lot of issues. And I said, hey, I wonder if I can build a ranch. And initially started out with if I had to have homeless veterans come to the ranch, stay there, have some psychological people there to help them out. But then the reason I keep always going back to the Marine Corps Scholarship Foundation, because I got a lot of my inspiration from them too. And I was speaking with James Carr, who's a gunny sergeant, and he said, work with those folks with PTS. He goes, get them before they go homeless. And that's when I started to change the mission. And then it became realistic that I could do it. I didn't have to have this huge ranch, and I do want to make it clear to everybody, I did not win the lottery. I did this. This is really a labor of love, and I still work. And I really, we have a great group of volunteers who come to the ranch, but we started with just having people come into our backyard, having some of the folks come to our backyard and work with the horse. And we started to see how it helped. Then I was blessed to have a veteran call, a trainer, a rescue horse at the time. This veteran, James Pennington, was willing to tell me his story. And so I interviewed him. Then we filmed the trainer, and who happened to be working with a rescue horse at the time. And we filmed the whole process. And I took that 5-minute video. I took it around to all the elected officials here on Long Island. And I finally, long story short, we got 6 acres in Calverton, Long Island, that we now have a ranch. We had to do a lot of work to get it happening. But it started in my backyard and other private barns. We started in 2016 was when we officially started. And now we have 6 acres in Calverton and have helped over 450 veterans and first responders. And it's been a hell of a journey. It really has been, but it's been worth it. And we have a great community. And so going back to twofold, it's after Warrior, my horse, but it's also after our warriors who serve and protect us every second of every day.
No, I love it, Eileen. I love it. Michael Chantilly is on. Says, good morning. Will Rhodes is on from Missouri. Dr. T.C. Fuller says, hot, sweaty, and breathless is the only way to join Coffee with Rich.
Well, I saw you had Will Parker on. He was from Montana.
Yes.
I just want to tell him, Will, if you're in Missoula on September, let me get the right date before I tell you, but on September 13th, we have the latest documentary, Warrior, A Battle Against Trauma, Learning to Love and Trust Again, was selected for the International Equus Film Festival, and it'll be playing in Missoula on September 15th, Saturday, September 15th. So those who are in Montana or in the nearby area, please come out and visit us. It's a film that we worked very hard on and are very proud of.
Yeah. He's a retired naval officer, and he might just jump on his motorcycle and head that way.
All right.
Walt Davis is on. Bruce is on up there in Michigan. Tony, another former Marine, is on. Mark is on from Ontario. Will Parker says, congratulations on that
Thank you, Will.
accomplishment, Eileen. Let's get into this. So
sure.
Since the global war on terror, there has been innumerable veterans charities, 501c3s, etc. What sets Warrior Ranch apart from those other programs and organizations that are doing amazing work for our vets? other than the horses, I understand there's an equine part of it, and being a horse owner myself, what what kind of sets you guys apart?
Well, we serve, just yeah, quickly, our mission is we provide equine um, assisted services, and we provide a recreational therapeutic outlet for veterans, first responders, and horses in need. And what I mean by that is we also rescue horses, and we have our participants work with the rescue horses. So it gives them a reason, a path, and a purpose to come to the ranch, because that's the buy in. They are helping us rescue and retrain these horses, thereby giving them a new forever home. So they are helping the horses. It is America's heroes rescuing America's icon. That is the difference of us. And we strictly serve the veteran and first responder community. There are fantastic organizations out there that, do a lot of great work, and I commend them all. I think it's fantastic because there's no shortage of folks and horses in need. So I think there's a lot of great organizations, but we also rescue horses, and I think that is what sets us apart.
No, outstanding. Now let's get into the specifics of it. I guess, Eileen, what does working with horses and various ranch activities have to, how does that benefit the mental and physical health of our veterans?
Sure. So I know that since you've had a horse yourself, like there's that old saying, there's something about the outside of the horse that's good for the inside of a man. But when you're around horses, they are amazingly healing. There is just something about the horse. And what it is, there is actually something physical that does happen. We all have a magnetic field around us, and ours is about, a small magnetic field, but of horses is about 25 feet wide. They can feel our heartbeat from about
Oh,
4 feet away. They can actually feel us. In nature, horses are prey animals and humans are predators. That is just nature. And if you ever watch horses in a herd, if you ever watch the National Geographic Channel or anything like that, you'll see horses. They go together in a herd and they sync up their heartbeats. So when they're out there in the wild, they pick one sentinel. There's one leader. No matter if there's 2 or 100 horses in a herd, there's only one leader, one number 1, one number 2, one number 3, one number 4, all the way down the line. That is their order. And when they're all out there grazing and relaxing, their heads are down and they're eating grass, and then all of a sudden, boom, they all raise up and jump and run. That's because that leader felt a threat. His heart rate spiked. And because as they sync up their heart rates, all their heart rates, and they just run. They are the fastest reactionary animal alive. They're not the fastest, but they're the fastest reactionary. And they all just bolt. They run. They're flight animals. They'll run and ask questions later. And so they have that feeling. So when a human goes into that arena, what we ask our participants is be congruent, be yourself, be your true self. Don't try. It's okay to be nervous. It's okay to have anxiety or trauma that you come with. It's okay. A horse wants you to be real, be you. Like I can sit here and say, Rich, I'm doing fantastic today. And I may not be, but as humans, I am, by the way, I am actually doing pretty good. So I'm not lying to you today. But what we as humans can sit and, look at each other right in the eye and lie. You cannot do that to a horse. A horse will know. The horse, because they can sense it, and they will, like, if you come in, and they will respond accordingly. So if I come in there and I'm all ticked off or whatever, and I'm in the parking lot, I come out slamming my car door, and I'm like, okay, let me go see my horse now. That horse is already on the other side of the pasture because he sees me so far away. He's like, I'm not going anywhere near her today. He's like, and you have to be very self-aware, and that's what horses do for you. You become self-aware of the energy that you're giving off. Right? Because you have to breathe, you have to relax. And like I said, it's okay to be anxious, because what a horse will do is very interesting. You can go into that arena and you can be very nervous, but that horse rate will raise its heart rate up to your heart rate and then lower his heart rate, and yours will naturally lower. There's scientific studies that prove it. I'm not making this up. They've done this. Tufts University has done a lot of studies on it. They've put heart monitors on humans and hearts, and they've actually studied this. And there is a physical connection that happens that raises heart rates and brings it down. And we talk to our participants about what's natural for the horse, what comes naturally to the horse. We talk about their senses, how they can see almost 180, almost 360 degrees around because their eyes are on the side. Prey animals have their eyes on the side, so they can only see, they can't see directly in front of them or directly behind them. And their focal vision, like it kind of comes in like a cone when they're seeing in front of them. So this is pretty amazing. I'm assuming you've seen horses go over jumps, like in a competition.
Mm.
Right before that horse gets to that jump, it doesn't see the jump because it kind of disappears the way their eyes go. So they have to have that kind of trust in that rider, right?
Mm.
You have to be the leader of that horse. And so they trust that rider so much that when they cue them to go over that jump, they're not seeing it right before they go over it. So horses are just amazing, but you have to be the leader of that horse. And another thing I say is you have to be the leader, because what happens is they communicate through body language. Horses communicate through body language. We use words, right? We do use body language sometimes as well, but horses use body language all the time. There are some great horsemen and women like Tom Dorrance, Ray Hunt, all these great horsemen and women, and even going back to the Indians who've studied the horses and how they communicate. And they've come up with these programs, and we replicate it as humans. So we show you how to communicate to a horse through body language. So it would be kind of like if I went to Russia and there was everybody there and nobody spoke English. And I mean, no, obviously they speak Russian. I find one person who speaks English, and I'm like, I'm going to gravitate toward that person because they speak my language. So now what's going to happen when I go speak to these horses, they're going to, when you're looking at that hind end or you're giving it some rhythmic pressure and you're talking to it the way communicating to it the way another horse would communicate, they go, oh, you speak my language. So that's how you start to become the leader of that horse. And we teach that to our participants, and you'll be able to move that horse just by, rhythmic pressure like this. You're not even touching the horse, just by looking at its hind end. And that is very, very empowering. And so the biggest thing that people walk away with from the ranch is self-awareness of the energy you bring to the table. You start to regain self-confidence. You can overcome fears. You learn about boundaries, because horses have boundaries too. How to approach a horse. You don't go direct on. We walk straight at each other. But like I said, horses, their vision changes. So you approach them at an arc. So there's a lot about what's natural for the horse. And we teach everybody that. And they don't, one thing about our ranch, you can do as little or as much as you want.
Mm.
You don't have to, there's no pressure. And if you want to talk about your trauma, that's fine. If you don't want to talk about your trauma, you don't have to. You don't have to have a trauma. The only requirement to come to Warrior Ranch is you're a veteran or a first responder. And it's a like-minded community. They're there with people who've gone through what they've gone through. We have some people who come and just like to look at the horses. Some people like to groom, and we've made a few cowboys and cowgirls too. Some people now own horses. So it's been a journey. It's been pretty great.
Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, and I can go on and on, as you can tell.
No, I love it. I think that people that are watching this one and will listen to the podcast can sense your passion about it, Eileen.
Yeah, I would love for them to. If you go to our website, we have a few videos on the website that they can watch and see. And like I said,
I've got links to your website in the show notes today, as well as your bio. Yeah, so I was hoping that you could give us. I love the generality, but if you can give me like a memorable anecdote or a success story from your work at Warrior Ranch, that would be really cool.
Sure. There's so many. I'll tell you one of the first ones, and I will tell you it's been a journey for me and a learning along the way, because when you first start something, you don't necessarily know everything about it, and it was just amazing to watch. So one thing I did learn, I will tell you, because we have these exercises that we do, and so we set it all up, and we'll set up six stations for people to work at, and we're like, oh yeah, this will definitely take all day. We'll never get through all of them. Okay, we're civilians. We're civilians, so Marines, Army, Navy, everybody are very focused. So when you tell somebody to do something, when you say, hey, stare at a hair on the hind end of the horse, well, they stared at the hind end of the one hair on the hind end of that horse. And that horse moved immediately. Like, and it's like, I know when we're talking about civilians, you tell them to stare at a hair on the hind end, they're staring at a spot this big, so it was very interesting. So like, and the other thing we asked them is circle the horse. Well, like, have them, circle the horse, have a number in your head of how many times you want the horse to circle, and then ask him to stop. And someone was circling and circling and circling. And I said, and when you're ready, look at the hind end, and they're very focused and they're going. And I said it again. And I was like, and I kept saying it, like, and they had the horse do like, 15 circles. I'm like, and then again, then I realized going forward, you have to say, just have them circle once or twice, because you have high goals. It's just, that's the nature of the men and women who serve. But we've had, one of the first things that happened is one of the things we have the folks back up the horse, just use your energy and back the horse up, and then slowly breathe and bring the horse back into you. You're holding the lead line. The horse is on about a 15-foot lead line, and just to show how gentle the horse will go back nice and easy, and how gentle it'll come back to you, as long as you're breathing and being congruent. And so everybody in the group, they were doing it. Everything was going fine. And this one individual horse backed right up. Remember I told you the horse will back right up away from you, as being self-aware of what you are. And this horse backed right up away from the person and would not come in. It was like that rope was taut. And the individual really got upset, because it was like, she said, I'm a piece of crap, whatever. It was a little stronger language. I know it's early morning, so I'll, but then the individual broke down.
Oh man.
Because they were trying to be brave, because they were a leader in the service, they led troops, and then all of a sudden they broke down. And that horse, once that person let go, that horse walked right up to that person. Wow. And it was right there. And I'll tell you what, I'm getting choked up even talking about it, but there wasn't a dry eye in the place after that, because the person felt so like, oh my God, how come this horse doesn't like me, and this and that. It went to everybody else. And then, and it's amazing how the horses can heal. And that's what we'll do. We'll have the people just, if people are like, they just don't know what to do sometimes. And they're like, if they're like brushing the horse and they have all this angst, and they're really, I'm like, you're going to brush the skin right off the horse. It's like, so, but you go and approach the person, you say, oh, hey, Johnny, how about we just, let's just pet him for now. Let's remove the brush from you. And let's just pet him. And then we'll pet the horse. And then I'll have them like lean into the horse and almost like hang on to the horse and just breathe, and so they can sync up with the horse. And so that was another moment that we've had multiple times with people. And then when you get them, we just recently, oh my goodness, we just recently had these men, Vietnam veteran. He's just about 80 years old. And he had said to me, and there was another gentleman in his 80s, and they both had said to me, hey, can I swing a leg over one time before I leave this earth? How do you say no to that? I was like, so I was like, all right. And so we just made sure we had the right horse, because again, it's, we have a mounted, we've mainly groundwork program, a mounted, and a driving program, a few different programs. But the smile on their faces was amazing. It was just amazing to watch. And they got on the horse. We were very careful. They just got on, and they were just like little kids again. It was fantastic. It was really, really great. So that was, we've had some great moments like that. And, a lot of the men from the Vietnam era just come because they went through hell when they came back here. They were not, well, that was not a nice time. And, and so we just always, thank you for your service, thank you, welcome home. And they come to the ranch lot, and it's the camaraderie. Camaraderie is the biggest thing that people get from the ranch. And it's generational too. It's, because we have people who come from the recent wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, all the way to the Korean War. We have folks from the Korean War too. So there's so many different antidotes I can go into. I can tell you, we have, like I said, we have a groundwork program. We have a mounted program. We also have a driving program. One of our rescue horses, Sully, is a standard bred. And the horses too. The horses too have their stories too, which a lot of the participants relate to. And now
Mhm.
Sully, we have a driving program with a gentleman, Robbie Siegelman. Robbie Siegelman is a retired trotter trainer. You know, the horses that drive the carts and they race.
Mhm.
So he was a trainer. He's retired. He's been giving back his time for probably 15, 20 years to veterans. And he comes out to Warrior Ranch, and he got us in touch with the Standardbred Retirement Foundation, which is where we got Sully. Now Sully was a little beat up. He had a racing career. And then after his racing career was over, he went and worked for the Amish. Something happened when he was with the Amish. He ended up in a kill pen because there's an ugly part of the horse industry, but it is what it is. I mean, there's certain things, you know. So the horse ended up in a kill pen, but because he had a freeze brand on underneath his mane, because he was a racehorse, they contacted the Standardbred Retirement Foundation and they pulled him out of there. Now something had happened and he lost his eye, so the Standardbred Retirement Foundation took care of that. We got Sully, we brought him to Warrior Ranch, and now Robbie comes out every Saturday, weather pending, and we have a Scully, which is the cart. It's a 2-man cart that they drive in, and they drive all around the ranch. And so that again is another big thrill that the folks get from Warrior Ranch. And then the other program we have is a roping program that we have. We use Slickhorn's horsemanship, and that's a smaller program, but we still do it. And that's began with one of our participants, James Cohan. He began and went. He's one of the cowboys that we made. You know, he really went through the program and then just is now a living cowboy. He's down in Florida
A
now.
Long Island cowboy, Eileen?
Yeah, yes, believe it or not. There's one or two. I'm not sure if Texas or anybody else, or maybe down in Tennessee, you guys might not really believe it, but they do. We do have a few cowboys and cowgirls up here. And so he did a roping program. And
That's awesome.
but yeah, so every once in a while we see James and Joe Ortego and Wayne Dougal. Those are a few folks who do some extra, who come in and share their talents with our participants. So,
You know, it's when I was thinking about having this conversation with you this morning, I don't think I ever realized. I mean, like I said, as growing up on horses and being a horse owner, I knew how important and impactful the relationship was, and I knew that it could be healing for veterans. Being a vet myself, however, I really didn't think about the relationship going both ways. That's
yeah.
healing and impactful for the horse as much as it is for
Mhm.
the veteran. That's something I don't think I'd thought about before talking to you this morning.
Yeah, it's amazing to watch the horses too, you know, and not all. I mean, the horses all know, they all have it in them until because you know, horses have to have a job. You know, they need a purpose as well. You know, and
Yes.
when their racing careers are over or their show performance careers are over, you know, where do they go? You know,
Right.
so you know, you don't want them. You know, they get passed down the road. You know, but the horses. It's
That's the
interesting.
same for vets. A lot of, especially Marines, I know that struggle with they identify with, I'm a Marine, you know, like people ask me, so, you know, thank you for your service. I'm like, I wasn't in the service. I was a Marine, you know,
Right.
or I am a Marine. And you know,
Yeah,
so
once a
what,
Marine, always a Marine.
that's right. And, you know, and you get out and a lot of people really, they identify with being a Marine so much, and then they get out and they don't know what to do themselves. So it's funny you say that about these working horses. They need a job,
Mhm,
and most Marines, I would say most veterans probably feel that way. I was the
mhm,
first sergeant. You know, I had 130 men under my charge, and now I'm, you know,
mhm.
working at Lowe's or whatever. And like, okay, that's a tough
Yep, mhm.
transition.
Yeah, there is, yes, we see a lot of, we try and give folks a purpose. Come out to
Uh,
the ranch. These horses, there is no cure for having been a Marine. That's, I love that.
yeah.
Yeah, we give them a path and a purpose, a reason to come out. A
Mhm.
reason to come out and see the horses every day. And I will tell you a story. We had a gentleman who came in who we knew who had a lot of issues. He's a Marine. And when he came into the room, you know, there was a few of us there, and we asked one of our our Marines, who happens to be a Vietnam veteran. This gentleman was in the Afghan war, and he definitely was like, he came in the room looking for every exit. He came in, you could tell, like some people come in just like, we come in, talk to you, come walking in, but then there are other people you can see that their trauma is visible. Some of it's internal, some of it's visible, and this one was definitely very visible. And I'm like, hi, I'm Eileen and Juliet and Antoinette, and everybody's saying hello, and he's just like looking around. We said, hey, this is John. He's a U.S. Marine. Boom. He just looked right at him, sat down, and then he was glued to it. Was the Marines, you guys. I mean, it was once he knew he had a brother right there, it was like Semper Fi. And there was a switch like in the he was like, okay, I'm safe. I can sit, I have another Marine here. That was because being a civilian, that's not something that I see all the time. You know what I'm saying? It was fascinating for me to see that. And it was, I was glad. Marines and Army have one thing in common. They all wanted to be Marines.
Dr. T.C. Fuller, of course, is a former Army officer and retired FBI agent. So it's, nice. But I like, I love what I'm hearing, to be honest with you. I think it's healing and impactful. But one of the things that's kind of coming out to me as we're chatting this morning is, having been a recruiter for a long time, I also know the kind of person that comes in the service, and a lot of times, so I can only speak to the Marine Corps. I can't say into the service. The kind of person that comes into the Marine Corps normally has some trauma already that they're dealing with. They're looking for a sense of purpose, a sense of belonging, a family. They're looking for the esprit de corps. Maybe they didn't get it where they were before, the pride of actually belonging to an elite organization like that. So it's not surprising to me that that type of person would then matriculate out of the Marine Corps with some level of unhealed trauma. And then you add on to that, 14 combat deployments and the loss of your family, your brother and sister Marines. And it's rough. And I think that what you're doing, my God, it can save lives and reduce veteran suicide, veteran homelessness. I mean, all of the vets that are watching this morning, I'm looking at the list of them. There's a lot on here. They all have lost somebody to suicide. I mean, which is a tragedy that needs to get national attention.
It has to stop, because it's ridiculous. It has to stop, because how dare us? How do we not do something about this? I mean, how can you look at that number and be like, that's okay? It's not okay. It's not. Okay. No. It's not. And you're out there defending our freedom every second of every day. We are here. You and I are having this conversation right now because of men and women like you.
Amen.
And how, we have to do something. It's a disgrace. It's a disgrace, if you ask me. And so we are out there and we are passionate about it. And people come to the ranch, and people have said to us, if you aren't here, I might not be here.
Sure.
And people have told us we've saved lives. When this started in my backyard, there was a time when someone was in the Navy. Their son was also in the Navy, but there was something happened on the ship, and someone took their life on the ship. And this parent, who's also a fellow Navy, had no idea if it was their son or not, and was in a panic. And, and was calling our friends, and they said, call Eileen, call Eileen. This is before we had the main ranch. It was at my house at this time. And they said, call Eileen. And I didn't know the background of the story. The person just said, hey, can I, I'm having a bad day. Can I come out? And I said, sure, come on out. And I said, let's go take a walk with Cody in the park. And we hand walked the horse, and not a word was spoken for about 45 minutes. Just sat there walking with the horse, because I knew something was going on. I didn't know what, but I knew something. And again, like I said, there's no pressure. The horse is the therapist, not me. It's the horse that's the therapist. And they spent time with the horse. And on the way back, started to talk. Still didn't know the whole incident. Started to, and she just calmed down coming back. And it was months later at a county meeting that they told the story. That person was ready to off themselves that day, because they were just like, and they made that call. And you have no idea. And I couldn't believe that when I heard that. I'm like, all I'm doing is sharing my horses. That's all I'm doing, is sharing my horses. You know, because it started out with my husband and I's our personal horses, and now we have the rescue horses. But that's all I'm doing is sharing my horses with everybody. And but that was remarkable to me. And I always say to everybody, you have no idea what people are going through. You have no idea what people are going through. They're not going to say to you, just be kind to people. Just be kind. You know, open the door. You know, say thank you. Like, don't. People are just so judgmental sometimes, and it's just like you have no idea what can trigger somebody, and you don't want to set anybody off. But people do come to the ranch. They come to the ranch all the time, and like I said, it's the camaraderie. There is such camaraderie in a community. You mentioned community earlier in the show. It's a huge community, and even the local businesses too. When we first started, because that place needed a lot of renovations. They got the land of the property, but it wasn't ready to be used. But
Eileen, let's pivot into that, because I do want to ask you that. You know, when you were starting this and transitioning from your backyard to the ranch, you know, what were some of the biggest challenges you guys face in establishing and even sustaining what you created?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's well, first of all, we were so excited to have the property. It was like, oh my God, this is great. You know, we have 6 acres of 150. There's 150 acres there, but Warrior Ranch is dedicated to 6 of them. Believe it or not, the biggest challenge initially was the community. The place was deserted for like 10 or 15 years. So no, they didn't want anybody in there. And then they heard it was like, oh, veterans of PTS, we don't want that in our backyard. And we're like what? You know, I'm like, you know, believe it, that shocked me. That shocked me. But we deployed, like, I tried to be polite about it. It's like, oh, we're doing this great thing. And then all of a sudden it was like, and believe it or not, it's only like 2 or 3 people that could, I shouldn't say the whole community. So I have to correct that. It was like 2 or 3 people, but those 2
vocal
or 3 people,
2 or 3 people, right?
Vocal 2 or 3 people, because what we did was all of a sudden, I'm like, I can't believe we're not going to get this property. What are we going to do? We deployed everybody, went out, got signatures, went in front of the legislature. All these signatures, all these people came in. You have to speak up. And that's what people, because we've sat back. Well, like my generation, we've like, you know, you sit back and like, we've had such great freedoms and all these wonderful things happening all these years. We've taken it for granted. You can't take it for granted, because as people see, it's starting to change. But you got to get in there and open. You got to speak up. And that's what happened. Then everyone spoke up. That's where you saw the community come together. And then we got in there. Then it had to be renovated, right? So we get the property in October of 2019. And then March of 2020, COVID hits. I was like, oh my God. I was like, now what? But believe it or not, that was the biggest blessing, because everybody wanted to be outside. And so we had 6 acres, like, and then and everyone started to clean it up. And yeah, the veterans were out there, the Marine, the firefighters, cops, everybody came out. A lot of them are handy, mowing the lawn, you know, and that now we have tractors. You know, we were out there with the little push mowers for, you know, a couple of years. Now we have tractors. It was just renovating the whole place. And we had great organizations that came in. Local 138 with the heavy machine operators came in and helped clear 3 acres. They helped build an outdoor arena. I mean, we went from like having just like working in a round pen out there. I brought my portable round pen out there. Now we have a big grass arena, a big like equestrian center that's like 3 acres, that's got 100 by 150 arena. You know, we've got a whole obstacle course. You know, we've because he set up obstacles for horses too, with trail course, you know, to desensitize the horses. And the Eagle Scouts get involved. The Eagle Scouts, because they have projects they have to do, and you know, they build a lot of benches in the community. I'm like, we have some benches, but hey, how about you build a bridge for the horse, or a teeter-totter for the horse to go over? So we've got a lot of that. So building it has been the biggest challenge, and we're really in a good spot right now. But the biggest thing we need, and I'll tell you the biggest challenge, we're still only open part-time, because again, I still have to work. You know, it's a labor of love. The foundation does have 2 part-time people and about 8 contractors, because you do have to pay people to run an operation like this. We have 3 horses that live there that have to be fed and trained, and, you know, and things like that. So people have to be there every day, but we have amazing volunteers. And a lot of them are from the veteran and first responder community, whether they are themselves and or from families. You know, it's so it's an amazing community. So building all that. So we are open. You know, we do services several days a week. However, we need to be open full time. So right now, our biggest challenge is funding, of course. I mean, that's always every nonprofit thing, but we are starting to get a wait list of people. Like, we're getting to a point where, and I've been very careful about media coverage too, because it's great to have media coverage, but then you get an influx of you get a demand of people to get there, but I don't ever want to shortchange anybody and say, sorry, I can't help you because I can't, that we're not doing, hey, yeah, great. We're
Mhm.
here, but I don't have room for you. So we try to manage it as best we can, to get folks in there. If there's ever a crisis, we stop everything and get people in. Like we've had police officers who have line of duty shootings that need to get in there pretty quick, and we'll stop everything and get them in there. Like we had a combat veteran I was talking about earlier, had to get that person in there. We stop everything.
Mhm.
But we do want to get open full time. So right now, our biggest challenge is funding, but we do have a big fundraiser every year, first Sunday in October. So if you're here on Long Island, and if you want to come in, everybody's welcome. We love it. It's October 5th at the ranch. We have it at the ranch so people could see it. And we usually get about 200 folks there. So it's pretty great.
Well, I'm glad you said that because specifically, veterans, military families, anybody that wants to help out or or even benefit from what you're doing up there, Eileen, what do they need to do?
Just go to our website, warriorranchfoundation.org. And all the information is there. If you're a veteran or first responder and want to apply for a retreat, go to them. My dogs want to get involved here. I don't know if you hear them in the background.
Oh, yeah.
But you go to it says get involved. You can apply for a retreat. There's phone numbers there. You can always call us. And but we are there for you. We are there. We have a great team of people. We have a great team.
Any future plans for the?
What was that?
Before I let you go, any future plans for the ranch coming up the next few years?
We'd love to, like a capital improvement. We'd love to have out there, but we are. And speaking of, if you're down in Tennessee, we do want to take Warrior Ranch on the road and go to some places. Like if we went down by you, I'm sure you could probably grab a few veterans if we brought our horses down there or found, because I know some folks down in Tennessee that we do want to take it on the road, because we have had people from up and down the East Coast come to Long Island. And it's mainly, the tri-state area, but we have had people up and down the East Coast. So we had one of our original members lives in Florida now, flew up specifically because they were having I'm getting a little whatever, having some issues, and flew up just to come to the ranch. But we've had people from North Carolina, Virginia, Maine, New Hampshire. So I would love to be national. So we'll start out by taking it on the road to some
that
places.
sounds cool.
Yeah. So I'll be in touch with you for sure, because I think that would be.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll connect after this. Eileen, one more time, where can folks follow you, be a part of what you're doing, make donation, etc.?
Yep, warriorranchfoundation.org. And we are also on Facebook and Instagram. So just look for us, warriorranchfoundation.org. We have a good social media team out there posting stuff. Some of it's serious about the veterans in the program. Some of it's lighthearted with the horses when they're kicking and bucking out in the pasture, So we've got a great team. And I'd mention the team, but I know I'd forget somebody. So I'm just generally saying I have the best team. And Warrior Ranch is in good hands.
Well, I tell you, I know that our listeners that will listen to the future podcast can hear the passion in your voice. I think you're a fantastic representative of your organization. I'm so glad to have had you on this morning, Eileen. God bless you for what you're doing.
Thank you. And I always do say God loves Warrior Ranch.
Well, thank you so much, guys and gals out there in Warrior Nation. Please check out today's show notes. You can follow Eileen, what her and her team are doing up there at Warrior Ranch. And if your heart feels led to it, man, go ahead and make a donation. I'm sure they could use it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
All right, Eileen. Guys and gals, be safe out there, because the fight is coming. Be ready.
Yeah.